Thank you. Our next speaker in the humorous contest is Robert Fisher. The Best Picture Oscar goes to Oscar. The Best Picture Oscar goes to Oscar. Robert Fisher.
Wow, the Best Picture Oscar. Posthumously awarded to me. Oscar. I came here today to explain the question I was asked most often when I was alive. How did I ever come up with the Best Picture Oscar? Contest master, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest, it started with a crash while driving Miss Daisy, or Gigi as I came to know her. She was an American beauty and the artist for who I was looking. We met in Casablanca, not Morocco, out of Africa, that little hamlet near Chicago, in a grand hotel on the waterfront. Our first date, I thought, was going to be the lost weekend, as she spoke of her sister incessantly. It was all about Eve, this and that. But I was like Shakespeare in love. We'd go to the theater to see Oliver, as the sound of music filled the air with My Fair Lady next to me. Or so I thought. In the heat of the night, I failed to notice she had left with the departed audience. For missing that small detail, I should be unforgiven. I knew she had a beautiful mind. I raced from the theater, spoke on the street. She was going my way, so we headed back to the apartment. There, she called me her midnight cowboy, as I spun my exploits of traveling from here to eternity, of seeing the greatest show on earth on the bridge of the River Kwai, while trekking around the world in 80 days. She told me of her time with a British soldier who had broken her heart. The English patient abandoned her after the King's speech said it was all quiet on the Western Front. Soon my brave heart allowed me to propose to her. We married, we had a son, and I started a new chapter of my life based on my love of movies. I invented the Best Picture Oscar. I made lots of money. I was awarded a patent for it. I was a man for all seasons. What did I do with all my money? I went to the other side of town near the Forest Gump. There, I built low-income housing. It was my $1 million baby. My tenants affectionately referred to me as their slumdog millionaire. It is here I first met Tom Jones, who had spent 12 years a slave, hunting 8-pointed bucks and held dances with wolves to prove his manhood. The deer hunter and I had an affinity for the Roman Empire. We'd reenact on weekends, he playing the part of gladiator, and I the part of the last emperor, until that fateful day. The chariots of fire we were riding crashed into the complex and burned it to the ground. There are no more Roman reenactments on that part of town. It is forever known as the West Side Story. A few years later, Gigi and I retired, but not happily. We sat in opposite wings of the living room, both of our televisions raised to their fullest, watching Seinfeld reruns. It was Kramer versus Kramer. One day, Gigi stood up. She threw her shoes at me. The first sailed past me, hit an old army chest I had collected. Pay no mind, the hurt locker was okay. The other one flew over the cuckoo's nest and slammed into the front door. Suddenly, all you could hear was the silence of the lambs. Yes, our mute pet lambs, Amadeus and Gandhi. It was the final straw. We soon divorced, and I placed her on my Schindler's List. But the true victim in all of this was our son. For you see, we made our son Ben hurt. As I reflect on the past, I realize the best years of our lives are spent as ordinary people. We become the godfather of one, or the godfather to several children. But in the end are left with no country for old men. But hey, I had a good life being in the spotlight. How green was my valley, you may ask. Let's just say there was little rain, man. I spent time with some close friends. There was Mrs. Minerva, who lived upstairs with her daughter Rebecca. Lawrence of Arabia, who whenever he would come over would not use coasters. I referred to him as Lord of the Rings. Finally, my best friend, the great Ziegfeld, who I just called him. But it happened one night as I was walking through the kitchen. I looked on the counter on a paper towel. I saw ants fighting their queen for control. Mutiny on the bounty, don't you know? I slipped on a spill, fell on top of a scorpion. I died from the sting. And since you can't take it with you, I gave all my money to charity. The funeral in Cimarron was a beautiful sight. A cavalcade of hikers marching in step like a platoon up a titanic, rocky crag. As my ashes were scattered while terms of endearment filled the valley like the Broadway melody, Annie Hall. And I was gone with the wind. Contest master.